My parents said Grandma sent me $50 for my birthday, but when she arrived and asked about the $10,000 she'd sent, she slammed the table and started screaming. I still remember the day I turned 21. It should have been a celebration, a milestone. Instead, it was the day I discovered my own parents had been stealing from me for years, and the truth exploded right there at our dinner table. Okay, so my name's Caleb, I'm 21, and I spent my night slinging plates at a roadside diner. You know the type, laminated menus, a birthday song that could shatter glass. I was always the middle kid, right? Not the golden child, not the screw-up. Just the reliable one. The one who runs to the store, the one who knows where the light bulbs are. The one who always got told, "You're so reliable," like it was a compliment, not a leash. Our town, it ran on favors and old gossip. My dad, a used car salesman, always had a deal for everyone but us. My mom, she kept score of everything, especially who brought what to church potlucks. Then there was Mason, my older brother, the star, big smile, loud laugh, always center stage. And Ivy, my little sister, the project, sensitive, constantly in drama club. Me? I was the background. The guy who showed up, carried chairs, took photos nobody ever printed. Except for one person. My grandma. She was the reason our family even pretended to be polite. She held the real power, not lottery money, but old doctor money from my grandpa's trust. She didn't flash it, but everyone knew that trust paid for everything. College, braces, down payments. It was the invisible hand keeping our family from completely falling apart, and the very visible hook my parents dangled in front of us. Most days at work, I was cheerful. You kind of have to be when you're juggling plates and remembering a dozen orders. But the night I turned 21, I dragged myself home after a brutal double shift, totally exhausted. And there it was, a sheet cake on the counter, plastic forks and a mug. Surprise. Mom chirped, like she'd been planning it for months. Dad clapped me on the shoulder. Mason, of course, took a selfie of all of us, tagging it #FamilyTime with a fire emoji. Ivy sang happy birthday off-key, just to be cute. We lit the candles, I made a wish I didn't even understand, and then we cut the cake. That's when Dad reached into his pocket, pulled out a folded bill, and slid it across the table. Just like a hotel tip. "Your grandma sent this for you," he said. It was $50. $50, I blurted, 50, before I could even stop myself. Mom's smile tightened. "Don't be ungrateful, Caleb. I tucked the bill into my wallet, mumbled, "Thank you," and tried to swallow the bitter taste in my mouth. Something felt deeply, terribly wrong. Then, about a month later, Grandma came to visit. We were sitting at that same table, probably with cake crumbs still in the grooves. She leaned her cane against her chair, took my hand, and in a voice soft but absolutely clear, she asked, "Did you get the 10,000 I sent for your birthday?" I blinked. 10,000. I could only stammer. I only got 50. Grandma's face changed. It was like watching a storm front roll in. She slammed her palm on that table so hard the forks rattled. "What?" she roared, her voice echoing down the hallway. "What did they give you?" Mom's plastered-on smile finally cracked. Dad suddenly found the ceiling fascinating. Mason just said, "Whoa." And just like that, everything I thought I knew, started to unravel. See, when you're the background kid, you get conditioned to think you're lucky just to get the scraps. I remembered when I was 12, Mason got braces and a weekend beach trip because confidence matters. But when I chipped a tooth playing church basketball, Mom just said, "We'll smooth it out when we can." So, at 15, I got a job busting tables, and suddenly, my money wasn't theoretical. It was real, crumpled bills that smelled faintly of ketchup. Dad would see that roll in my pocket, flash a smile, and say, "Proud of you, son," then immediately follow with, "Hey, you mind covering gas? Things are really tight." Did I mind? Absolutely. But I always handed it over. Family helps family, Mom would drone. Translation, Caleb helps. Mason always had a laundry list of needs that sounded suspiciously like wants. New cleats, the latest phone, a graduation trip, a networking suit. Ivy actually needed therapy, and I never begrudged that. But somehow my hard-earned tips always ended up as their co-pays and parking money. It wasn't a one-off. It was a pattern. I even started a note on my phone. $25 gas, $40 Ivy's appointment, $60 Mason emergency, $120 will repay Friday. That Friday never, ever arrived. I stopped tracking at $2,380. The total just made me feel utterly stupid. Grandma, bless her heart, had tried to keep things fair using the trust. She gave each grandchild a specific portion for school or trade, a portion for a first car, and, crucially, a portion for our 21st birthday. It wasn't a bottomless pit. It was structured, just like Grandpa, a stickler for rules, would have wanted. But my parents? They treated that trust like their personal ATM, a faucet they could just lean on. They handled all communication with the trustee, because Grandma forgets passwords, and it's complicated. They filled out forms, moved money as needed. If I dared to ask questions, Dad would sigh. "You just don't understand how trusts work, Caleb." Mom would chime in, "We're protecting you from taxes." Mason would just roll his eyes and say, "Dude, relax. And I did relax. Because when you grow up in a family like mine, the easiest way to survive is to just go limp. To stop fighting. I kept working those late shifts, mastering the art of carrying 5 plates at once, learning which booths tipped well and which ones brought their own ranch and stiffed you for fun. I'd smile through, "Hey champ, can you rush that?" from some guy who called me Kyle all night. Any cash I earned, I stashed in an envelope under a loose floorboard in my room, because if it stayed in my wallet too long, it seemed to just grow legs. At home, the small humiliations piled up. Mom texting, "Pick up your sister after class. You owe us." Dad borrowing my car because his was in the shop again, then returning it on empty. Mason borrowing my laptop and forgetting to return it for a week. And always, always, that mantra, like a sinister chorus, "We're family. We share." Grandma, she didn't visit often. She hated how my parents talked over her. Once, at the bank, she told me, "I hate feeling like a checkbook with shoes." I laughed then, but I felt bad for it. She's sharp, you know? Her hands might shake now, but her eyes are crystal clear. When Grandpa died, she wore his watch around her neck and said, "We'll do this right." The trust was supposed to make things simpler, not uglier. As my 21st approached, my parents started talking big plans. Mason wanted to start a detailing business. No plan, no spreadsheet, just vibes. Ivy wanted a trip abroad to find herself after a rough semester. Dad wanted to expand his car lot. Mom wanted a kitchen redo. Every single plan had a dollar sign attached, and every single plan, somehow, had my name all over it. "Caleb, you could co-sign for Mason," Dad said casually over a meatloaf dinner. "Your credit is clean." I said, "That's a bad idea." Mom frowned. "Why are you always so negative?" Mason just grinned. "You're the best, bro." I said I didn't agree. Dad's jaw visibly tightened. "We're discussing," he snapped. I looked at Grandma's framed photo on the piano, Grandpa's serious doctor face beside her. I wanted to ask that photo what to do. I desperately wanted a grown-up in the room who wasn't already against me. A week after my birthday, Mom casually mentioned, "Grandma's sending something for you. Don't expect a lot." And yeah, I shrugged it off. Didn't expect much, maybe a few hundred for my car brakes. Then came the $50 bill. I went quiet. I told myself, "Don't be weird about it, Caleb. Money's awkward." Maybe there was a misunderstanding. Maybe Mom paid for the cake and the $50 was a top-off. The little voice in my head, the one that always scolded me, said, "Stop counting, Caleb." But then Grandma came to town, saw her doctor, and decided to stay for dinner. She asked that question. I gave my answer. And she slammed that table. In that single, deafening instant, the trust wasn't this vague, invisible thing anymore. It was loud. It had sharp, cutting edges. Dad, smooth as syrup, tried. "Mom, you must be mistaken." "I am not mistaken," Grandma snapped back, her voice like cracking ice. "I told Samuel, the trustee, to send $10,000 to Caleb's custodial account for his 21st. It's written into the trust. It's been written for years." Mom touched her forehead like she had a sudden migraine. "We didn't see that." "Then open your eyes," Grandma practically hissed. The silence that followed was suffocating. My phone buzzed in my pocket. A bank notification. Low balance. The bitter irony almost made me laugh out loud. My parents exchanged a frantic look. Mason just stared at me, like I was the one being dramatic. Ivy looked like she wanted to evaporate. Grandma, now dangerously calm, spoke again. "Caleb, did anyone ask you to sign anything recently?" Dad jumped in. "We handle the paperwork, Mom." Grandma just ignored him. "Caleb." My throat was suddenly dry. I swallowed hard. Dad wanted me to co-sign a loan from Mason. Her gaze didn't leave Dad as I forced out. I said no. "Good," she said. "Then do not sign anything they put in front of you." "Mom." Dad whined, using that voice he reserves for difficult customers. "Enough." Grandma leaned back, but her eyes were still burning. "No, not enough." That was the moment. The exact moment I finally understood what I'd been pretending not to know. The trust wasn't a faucet, it was a well with rules. And someone had been lowering their own bucket, completely draining it, long before mine ever got a chance. Grandma asked me to come by the next afternoon. "Alone. Bring your bank statements," she said. "Bring anything they've asked you to sign this year." Her voice was soft, but her jaw was set like granite. I showed up with a beat-up folder and a coffee. She opened the door before I even knocked. "You look tired," she said. "I work nights," I replied. "We all work," she said, and ushered me in. We sat at her kitchen table, not a cake in sight, just papers. She meticulously read every single line, her finger tapping the page, making little sounds that told me she was cataloging every single injustice. Withdrawals labeled household reimbursement. Advances for Mason's business. And then, a transfer. 2 weeks before my birthday. $10,000 from the trust, into a joint account with my name and my parents' names. An account I'd never seen. And there it was, my signature on the form. Except it wasn't mine. "Is that your handwriting, Caleb?" she asked, her voice dangerously quiet. "No," I whispered. She took a picture of it with her phone and sent it to someone named Samuel. Then she picked up her old landline. "Come over," she said into the receiver. Now. She hung up before the other person could even answer. About an hour later, my parents walked in, not bothering to knock. Mason followed, hands shoved in his hoodie. Ivy, thankfully, stayed in the car. Mom plastered on her fake nurse smile. Mom, what is all this? Grandma didn't move an inch. Where is Caleb's $10,000? Dad let out a short, dismissive laugh, like we were all acting. Mom, for the love of where? Grandma thundered, cutting him off. Where is Caleb's $10,000? Mason shifted uncomfortably. It went to expenses. Whose expenses? Grandma asked, her eyes never leaving Dad's face. Families. Dad stammered, too quickly. We had to float some things. We planned to make it right. Planned. Grandma repeated, the word tasting sour on her tongue. Mom turned to me, her voice suddenly sweet. Caleb, don't make a scene. My own voice, when it came, was unervingly calm. You forged my signature. Mom flinched. Hard. We handle paperwork because you're young, she tried. I'm 21, I shot back. Dad tried his usual intimidating tone, the one that always worked before. You're being ungrateful. Your grandmother has done so much. We've done so much. We put a roof over your head. We fed you. Grandma cut him off cold. You are not going to itemize parenting to the child you stole from. Stole. The word landed like a dropped plate, echoing in the suddenly silent room. Mason threw his hands up. It's money, okay? It's not like we burned it in a barrel. We used it for the family. I stared straight at him. I'm the family, I said. And I'm what? He looked away, defeated. Grandma folded her hands, her voice now calm, but laced with steel. Here's what's going to happen. You will transfer the full $10,000 to Caleb today. Not tomorrow. Today. You will remove your names from any accounts with his. You will return the trustee's calls. And you will stop using him as a cosigner, a chauffeur, or a piggy bank. Mom's voice turned sickly sweet. Mom, you're just confused. Grandma stood up then. Tall. Imposing. Confused? I may forget where I left my reading glasses, but I do not forget theft. Dad's face hardened. We are not doing this in front of the kids. I just looked at him. We already are. He took a step towards me, his voice low and threatening. Watch your tone. And in that moment, something just clicked inside me. Like a door I'd kept bolted shut for years, suddenly swinging wide open. I wasn't shaking. I wasn't yelling. I wasn't pleading. I was just done. No, I said. I'm done watching anything. I'm not signing anything. I'm not handing over tips. I'm not co-signing. I'm not covering gas. I'm not lying to Grandma. If you need money, get a job that pays it. If you need help, ask honestly, and accept no as an answer. Mom started to cry. That show cry, you know? The one with no actual tears at first. How can you be so cruel, she wailed. I pushed my chair back, the legs scraping loudly across the floor, and the room went dead silent. Grandma let out a long, steady exhale. I'll be calling the trustee and the attorney, she said. You can stay for coffee, or you can leave. But this ends today. Dad just stared at me, like I'd suddenly broken some kind of spell. Mom wiped her dry cheeks. Mason muttered drama under his breath. I picked up my folder, leaned in, and kissed Grandma's cheek. Love you, I whispered. She squeezed my hand, a silent promise. I love you too, Caleb. I walked past my parents, felt them trying to pull me back with their looks, their old habits, those invisible hooks they'd used my entire life. But they didn't work. The door opened, and the air outside felt like the first real breath I'd taken in years. The messages started that night. 22 missed calls by midnight. 57 by morning. A rambling text from Mom at 3:11 a.m. You broke your father's heart. Another at 3:16. We forgive you. Another at 3:18. Return the car keys. Even though I don't own their car? Dad's voicemail started at 6:02 a.m. We need to talk like adults. Then 6:30. I'm coming by. 6:45. Answer your phone, boy. Mason's text at noon. Bro, you made it weird. I muted them all. I went to work, refilled iced tea, told the kitchen no onions, smiled at tourists, and scribbled checks with practiced loops. I felt this strange mix of hollow and unbelievably light. By 4 p.m., Grandma had accomplished more in 10 hours than I had in 10 years. She called the trustee, froze my parents' communication privileges, pushed for a full audit, and even set up a separate sub-account solely in my name. She texted me a picture of the new debit card. Pick it up from me, she wrote. We will set rules together. No exclamation marks, no guilt. I biked to her house on my break, and when I hugged her on the porch, she smelled like lemon soap. Sit, she said. Eat. She handed me a sandwich wrapped in wax paper, like I was a kid again. But there was no humiliation in it, just genuine care. We sat, and we set rules. My rules, not Mom's, not Dad's, not Mason's. I would not co-sign anything. I would not front money and wait to be repaid. I would not carry silence for anyone else's comfort. Grandma would talk to me directly, not through family channels. If she wanted to give me anything, it went to this new account. If she wanted to say no, she'd say no, and I would accept it. Then came the other rules, the ones for me. I would move out of the house within 30 days. I would save a month's rent as a cushion. I would stop letting my parents turn my time into theirs. I would only answer messages that used my name and a genuine question, not guilt trips. I found a tiny room above a nail salon near the diner. It was small, clean, and the landlord didn't care about my weird hours. Don't bring parties, she said. I never bring parties, I told her. She just nodded. Good. I moved out in 2 trips. The first trip, Dad was waiting on the porch. You're making a mistake, he said. I'm making a choice, I replied. You think you're better than us now? He sneered. I think I'm separate from you, I said. It sounded colder than I meant it, but it was true. Mom stood behind him, holding a Tupperware she didn't offer me. You'll come crawling back, she said, her voice laced with certainty. And for the first time, I truly saw the script she was reading from, the one that kept her safe. If I leave, I must fail. If I fail, she must be right. If she's right, nothing ever has to change. I hope I don't, I said. I hope none of you do. Mason leaned on the railing. You're making it dramatic. You forged my name, I shot back. He rolled his eyes. That was Dad. Dad didn't even deny it. I carried my small box to the car. It was so light. Most of my life, it turned out, fit into one back seat. That first week alone felt like stepping off a treadmill I hadn't even known I was on. My phone was quiet. I'd put it face down and leave it for hours. I took morning walks before the heat kicked up, learned the sound of the bakery mixer starting at 6:15 a.m. I bought a calendar and wrote my shifts in ink. I purposely left 2 mornings completely empty. Work felt different, too. It was still loud and sticky, full of small, stupid crises, but it didn't follow me home like a wet coat anymore. I said no to covering Mason's friend's catering gig for exposure. I said no to Ivy asking me to help her move a dresser into the attic at midnight. But I said yes to lunch with Grandma every Tuesday. On the 3rd Tuesday, she handed me a thin envelope from Samuel. Inside, she said, was a letter written in normal person English, not legal jargon. It confirmed the trust had reversed and reallocated the unauthorized transfer. It said a notary would be present Friday to remove my name from any joint accounts and record my refusal to co-sign any loans. And it said I could choose a new contact for trust matters. I chose Grandma. Thank you, I said. You did all that. Grandma just smiled. No, Caleb. You told the truth out loud. I actually laughed. It felt so foreign, like a crime. But it was the exact opposite. That night, Mom called from a different number. Your grandmother is turning you against us, she accused, without even a hello. No, I said. You did that. How can you be so ungrateful, she wailed. We raised you. You raised me, I corrected. You didn't purchase me. Then she started crying for real this time. I think we just needed help, Caleb. I know, I said. Ask for help. Don't just take it. You could ruin this family, she cried. This family, I told her, and it felt mean, but also like the only honest sentence I'd ever spoken, was already ruined. The call went silent. The guilt texts kept coming, but each time, they weighed less and less because I wasn't picking them up. On Sunday, the family group chat lit up with a photo of Mason holding a ribbon-cutting dagger in front of a banner, Mason's mobile detail. The caption read, "We did it, family." I even liked the photo. But then, my phone buzzed immediately with a DM from Mason. Loan me $3K for supplies. Quick turnaround. I typed out 5 different versions of a lecture, then erased them all. I just sent one word. No. Then I turned my phone off and went for a walk. When I came back, there were 12 new messages. Selfish. You changed. Grandma's favorite now. I went into my settings and set my phone to only allow Grandma's calls. It felt like turning a key, unlocking something. There were empty spaces now too. Spaces that used to be filled by errands and last-minute demands. I started filling them with small things that felt like mine. I ate breakfast sitting down. I ironed my work shirt the night before instead of yank ing it off a chair. I bought a cheap planner and wrote water bill, laundry, and sleep in it, like they were important events. And I still put cash in an envelope under a loose floorboard in my new place. Not because I expected someone to take it, but because it reminded me that now, I could keep it. One night, Ivy texted me late. Are you mad at me? I typed back, simple and honest. No. I'm done playing the part. She read it. No reply. 2 days later, she asked, will you drive me to the airport? I sent. No, but I'll pay half your Uber. She sent a thumbs up emoji. It felt like the first adult, equitable trade we'd ever made. A week after that, Grandma took my hand across the table again. Your grandfather used to say closure is just an expensive word for boundaries, she told me. You, Caleb, you found both. I wish I'd found them earlier, I admitted. You found them when you were ready, she said gently. Most people never do. On payday, I logged into my new account. There it was, a deposit from the trust, labeled 21st allocation reinstated. And a note, used for education or tools. Tools, I stared at that word. I wasn't going back to school right away, but tools resonated. I bought good, black, non-slip shoes that didn't destroy my knees after a shift. I bought a secondhand laptop that was mine, truly mine. I even signed up for a community college class on bookkeeping, because the restaurant manager once said, you've got a head for systems, and maybe I do. Then Mom sent a long email, titled Family Meeting Proposal. It had bullet points, reunification steps, transparency, rebuilding trust, and right there, in the middle, a line. Caleb will apologize for overreacting. I didn't write a speech. I didn't explain why. I just pressed delete. And it felt like dropping a heavy sack of wet laundry I'd been carrying for years. The town kept spinning. The church people speculated. The car lot kept limping along. The diner still ran out of ranch sometimes. And my life? My life got very, very boring, in ways that made my chest unclench and my shoulders relax. Every Tuesday, Grandma and I ate the same soup. She'd tell me the same stories about Grandpa's rounds, about the first time she heard his laugh. He would have liked you speaking up, she said one afternoon. I wish he'd been here to see it. He was stubborn, she mused. You two would have collided. That's how steel is made. I laughed. You and your metaphors, Grandma. She just shrugged. I read books. I went home and filed those papers in a folder labeled, simply, mine. I'm 22 now, almost 23. I still work at the restaurant, but I also do a few hours a week in the office, learning the software no one else wants to touch. I pay my rent on the first. I buy groceries that don't come pre-frozen. I text Ivy memes that are genuinely funny, not passive-aggressive. My phone stays on Do Not Disturb for almost everyone. But I answer when Grandma calls on the first ring. My parents still post photos with captions like, family first. They send occasional group texts about holidays. I send back neutral answers. I don't go to family meetings because, in our family, those are just ambushes with coffee. When I do see them by accident, at the store, the gas station, we say hi, like polite strangers. Mom sometimes reaches for my arm, then stops herself. Dad tries to make a joke, then sighs. Mason asks for a quick favor, and I just say no, and he says, whoa. And I go on with my day. Now here's the part people always ask. Did I ever get an apology? Not a real one. We were under stress. You know how your father is. You've always been so independent, it's fine. I used to think I needed those exact words to move forward. But now I know that simply moving forward is the only proof I need. I didn't cut them off completely. No, what I did was cut the rope that tied my wallet, my time, and my peace to their emergencies. There's a huge difference. I walk into rooms now, without waiting for someone to hand me a roll. I don't explain my no. I don't negotiate my boundaries down to some discount version just to make people comfortable. Grandma sometimes asks, do you want to change your last name? I always tell her, no. I want to change what it means when I sign it. So here's my simple, unpretty truth. The one I wish someone had put on a fridge magnet for me when I was 15. I am not my family's credit card. I am not their driver. I am not the safety net my parents bragged about when they wanted to look generous. I am a person. I pay my own bills. I answer to my own name. And that $50 from my 21st birthday? I still keep it folded in my wallet, on purpose. Not as a wound, but as a receipt. It reminds me what I used to accept, and what I absolutely refuse to anymore. The $10,000? That's long gone now, invested in tuition payments, those new tools, and a small cushion labeled emergencies that are actually mine. The real gift wasn't the money. It was that moment a woman with a trust and a spine slammed her hand on a table and refused to let me be stolen from. I'm building a small life now, one that actually fits me. Tuesday's soup, clean shoes, a notebook with numbers that always add up, and a phone that mostly stays quiet. Except for Grandma, and the group chat with two coworkers where we argue about who makes the worst decaf. I won't allow anyone to forge my name again. Not on paper, not in their plans, and especially not in the stories they tell about me when I'm not there. And if anyone asks why I pulled back, I won't send them a novel. I'll just say the one sentence that finally set me free. This isn't about revenge. This is about closure. Then, I'll get up, tip the busser, wipe down my section, and go home to the life I chose.